So picture this. You walk into a meeting room.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. Maybe it's the weekly strategy sync or like some special committee. You take your seat, you pull out your laptop. The topic is serious. The stakes feel pretty high.
Everyone's looking very focused.
Exactly. And
But
everyone around the table speaks, everyone nods in agreement, and eventually the decision is reached. You pack up your things, and the whole thing feels, incredibly productive. Smooth, even.
almost too smooth sometimes.
Yeah. But as you walk back to your desk, you kind of have to ask yourself the central mystery of the modern workplace. Whose decision was it, really?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is. And to answer that, welcome to today's deep dive. We are completely tearing apart this really incisive article by Irina Nikitina. It's titled, How to Read the Room When Everyone Votes the Same Way.
It's such a fascinating piece.
It really is. And our mission today is to completely deconstruct the hidden architecture of these meetings. We want to help you figure out if you're actually the decision maker in that conference room, or if you're, well, to put it bluntly, just a prop in someone else's play.
And I think it's important right out of the gate to validate the frustration you might be feeling. If you've sat through, countless meetings that just felt like a subtle waste of time.
Oh, totally. It's exhausting.
Right. But framing Nicotina's perspective simply as workplace cynicism, that would be a mistake. What we're doing today is taking an objective, almost forensic look at organizational architecture. We're looking at the machine, how the gears turn, and why the room is designed the way it is.
And the first big gear in this machine is what Nikitina calls the ritual consultation.
Yes, the ritual.
Yeah, this is basically a meeting that operates entirely as a performance. And it already has a known ending. Like, the script is written, and the actors just have to read their line.
It is a highly choreographed dance, and honestly, the choreography is incredibly seductive.
How so? Like, what does it look like in practice?
Well, Nikitina describes this classic setup beautifully. You have a senior leader, maybe a senior partner in a firm, or like a department head, who opens the discussion in the best Socratic tradition.
Oh, so they're playing the philosopher.
Exactly. They ask these big, open-ended questions. They actively invite everyone around the table to speak. They demonstrate what looks like genuine, authentic curiosity.
Right. They're nodding, taking notes, all that.
Yeah. And the atmosphere they deliberately create is one of total intellectual equality. For that hour, they make everyone in the room feel like their input holds, equal weight.
And people absolutely fall for it. I mean, if you're a junior member of the team, you engage so readily because it feels fantastic.
Incredibly flattering.
Exactly. You finally get to flex your expertise, you put forward these complex arguments, and you get to feel like this influential, high-level advisor.
But the text points out exactly why this dynamic works so seamlessly.
Right, because psychologically, it's an incredibly comfortable, almost intoxicating position to be in. You get the ego boost and the sense of deep involvement in a significant decision, but you carry absolutely none of the burden of final accountability.
You get to play the visionary strategist without having to actually own the consequences if the strategy just completely fails.
Exactly. It's like playing with Monopoly money.
That's a great way to put it. It creates a very potent, very convincing illusion of democracy. The gears are turning, people are passionately debating the finer points. The whiteboard is filling up with multicolored markers.
Our whiteboard markers are always a dead giveaway.
Always. It looks exactly like what every business school textbook tells you modern dynamic collaboration should look like.
Right up until the moment the curtain drops.
Yep. The inevitable finale.
Yeah. After an hour of everyone feeling so smart and so heard, the senior leader leans forward, puts their hands on the table, and delivers the ritual line.
We all know the line.
They say something to the effect of, well, thank you all for this incredibly valuable discussion. Having considered all the points raised, I've decided...
And boom, the democratic facade vanishes instantly.
Exactly. The whiteboard markers are capped. You suddenly realize the decision was never actually open for debate.
The decision was locked in before anyone even poured their coffee that morning.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it sounds exactly like a magician forcing a card.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. Like, you know the trick. The magician spreads the deck,
Yeah.
tells you to pick any card you want, and you feel entirely in control. Your hand hovers over the cards, you make your choice, and you feel like you exercise complete free will.
But the deck was stacked from the beginning.
Exactly. Your choice was just an illusion engineered by the person holding the cards.
What's fascinating here is, if we look at why that magic trick is so prevalent in the corporate world, it comes down to the psychological and social payoff.
Wait, payoff? For who?
For everyone, surprisingly. You might logically assume that people would leave that room feeling cheated or manipulated. But remarkably, Nicotina points out that almost everyone goes home completely satisfied.
That is wild to me. Even if the actual decision is terrible?
Yes. Even though the quality of the actual business decision might suffer because it wasn't truly stress tested by, real dissenting opinions, the social dynamic of the team is heavily reinforced.
So it's almost paradoxically functional. You're saying the business loses an intellectual opportunity,
Sure.
but the social fabric of the team actually strengthens. How does everyone leave a rigged room feeling satisfied?
Well, it's because of what each party extracts from the ritual.
Hmm.
It is a very subtle transaction. The senior leader gets a richer understanding of the team's mood, sure, but more importantly, they gain an insurance policy.
Oh, moral legitimacy.
Exactly. They gain moral legitimacy for the decision they were going to make anyway. Later, if things go sideways, they can legitimately say, hey, we consulted the team extensively.
Check the calendar. We had a whole hour-long meeting about it.
Exactly. And the junior members, as we discussed, get their egos stroked. They feel heard and respected, even if their specific arguments were ultimately set aside.
And what about anyone else in the room?
Any external observers, maybe a board member sitting in or like an HR representative, look at that room and see textbook, healthy collaboration. Basically, everyone wins on a social level.
Wow. Okay, so if this illusion is this convincing, if everyone is walking out of that room feeling great about a performance they didn't even realize they were in, how do you, the listener, avoid getting swept up in the performance before you waste your best ideas?
You have to learn to differentiate the performance from reality. You just have to be able to diagnose the room. And Nicotina contrasts the ritual consultation with its opposite, which is a genuine consultation.
Right. And a genuine consultation is a meeting where the destination truly hasn't been programmed into the GPS yet.
Precisely. The outcome is actually unknown.
Yeah, the questions the leader is asking are actually open because they genuinely don't know the answer. They aren't trying to confirm a conclusion they already reached in the shower that morning. They are genuinely listening to refine their understanding.
Yes. And in this kind of room, a well-articulated argument can actually change the outcome.
So how do you spot the difference? Because people aren't going to just tell you, hey, this is a ritual.
Exactly. And in a genuine consultation, the structural clues will look very different. The mistake most people make is listening to the words being spoken. The words are designed to sound exactly the same in both meetings.
So words are useless.
Pretty much. The focus has to shift entirely to the structure of how the meeting was built.
And Nicotina gives us a literal diagnostic checklist to read that structure in advance, which I love. First, you have to look at the agenda framing.
The phrasing on the invite is key.
Right. If a calendar invite says, let's discuss our strategy for next year, that is an open, genuine framing. The destination isn't set. But if the invite says, let's discuss the transition to the new billing system, that is closed. That is a ritual.
Because the transition itself is already a done deal.
Exactly. They're only letting you discuss the minor implementation details to make you feel involved in the grand scheme.
The agenda formulation is your first and often most reliable diagnostic tool.
Another massive clue from the text, and I see this all the time, the pre-meeting chatter. You really have to pay attention to the physical space of the office.
Oh, the corridor conversations.
Yes, you have to ask yourself, have there been one-on-one conversations in the corridors or behind closed doors or like over lunch before this formal meeting even started? If the key players were whispering by the coffee machine for 3 days prior,
The decision is locked in.
the official gathering is just the rubber stamp.
That corridor chatter is the actual meeting. The boardroom is just the venue for the announcement.
Okay, but wait. I want to challenge this premise for a second. Let me play devil's advocate on behalf of anyone listening who really believes in their own ideas.
Sure, go for it.
Let's say I read the room. I know it's a ritual consultation. I know my manager leans a certain way. But if I'm sitting there and I have a genuinely better solution, like a brilliant idea backed up by hard data, isn't it my professional obligation to speak up and pitch it?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. I mean, a smart leader would want to avoid a massive mistake, regardless of whether they made up their mind yesterday. Why is it framed as a trap to just do my job and offer a better alternative?
It is a completely illogical instinct, but it fundamentally misreads the purpose of the event you are attending. You are assuming the meeting is a data gathering exercise.
Which it isn't.
No, it is not. It is a legitimation ceremony. The danger isn't that the senior leader has malicious intent. The danger is that you are interrupting a ceremony with a brainstorming session.
Oh, wow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, doing so aggressively drains your political capital.
Okay, let's define that. When you say political capital in this context, what exactly are we talking about?
Political capital is the finite currency of goodwill, credibility, and influence that you hold within an organization. It's your boss's willingness to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's your colleagues' willingness to actually listen when you open your mouth.
Okay, so it's your reputation currency.
Exactly. If you walk into a ritual meeting, fundamentally misunderstand its purpose, and passionately argue against the predetermined outcome, you aren't being viewed as a helpful, brilliant contrarian. You are viewed as socially oblivious.
Ouch.
You are an obstacle to a train that has already left the station. You expend enormous energy, you irritate the leadership who just wanted a smooth legitimation process, and you achieve absolutely nothing. You have just burned your political capital on a fire that was already extinguished.
Man, so you're basically fighting a battle that was over before the calendar invite was even sent.
Exactly. You just look out of touch. And to your point earlier about the checklist, Nicotina gives us the ultimate structural tell to confirm if you were right to save that political capital.
Which is?
Who speaks last?
Oh, right.
In a genuine consultation, the leader might speak last to synthesize what everyone else just built together. But in a ritual consultation, the final word always belongs to the person whose decision already existed.
Let me guess. Their conclusion sounds oddly familiar.
Extremely familiar. If you pay close attention, that person's final decree will almost always match the exact tone and phrasing that was quietly set in the corridor by the key players before the formal part even began.
Because the vote really is just the final act of the performance.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking up in a rigged room burns your hard-earned political capital.
Mm.
So the logical move for the listener is just to zip it, right?
Yeah.
Stay quiet, keep your head down, and wait for a genuine consultation.
You would think so, but no.
Wait, really?
Yeah. This leads us to what the text calls the tyranny of silence, and it is arguably far more dangerous than speaking out of turn.
How can saying nothing be dangerous?
Because in partnerships, executive teams, and really any high-level collaborative environment, there is a very dangerous unspoken rule. If no one objects openly, everyone is assumed to be fully on board.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because this creates this incredibly toxic trap of shared doubts.
Oh, the pluralistic ignorance.
Yes, the text lays out this phenomenon, and the physical feeling of it in a room is so visceral. Just imagine sitting at that conference table. A proposal is put forward, and it is terrible. You look at the spreadsheet, and you immediately see a massive, glaring flaw.
Right, the numbers just don't add up.
Exactly.
All right.
But you look up, and you check the room's temperature. Dave to your left is nodding slightly.
Yep.
Sarah across from you is calmly taking a note. The room feels completely calm.
Yeah.
And your internal monologue says, well, they must know something I don't. Dave isn't worried. I must be missing a piece of the puzzle, so I shouldn't say anything and look foolish.
And the absolute tragedy of that scenario is that Dave and Sarah are having the exact same internal monologue about you.
They're all bluffing each other.
You are all collectively hallucinating a consensus. No one speaks. The decision passes without a single objection. And then, inevitably, 3 months later, when the project is hemorrhaging money, it emerges over drinks that almost everyone hated the idea from day one.
But each individual had independently looked at the group and decided to say nothing.
Exactly.
So silence isn't just a shield you can hide behind, is it? In this context, it acts more like a blank check. You aren't protecting yourself. You are handing over a blank check to the room, allowing them to fill it out in your name.
Handing over your proxy is the exact Marxism at play here. And Nicotina highlights that this blank check is especially lethal for newly promoted individuals.
Oh, because they're trying to prove themselves.
Or rather, they're trying not to mess up. Let's say you just made partner or you just got bumped up to the executive management team. Your first year in that new role is a time when staying quiet feels incredibly safe. It feels like the responsible, mature thing to do. You want to observe the dynamics. You don't want to rock the boat. You just want to learn the culture.
It's the classic, I have 2 ears in one mouth. I should use them in that proportion approach. It feels like humility.
It feels like humility to you. But to the room, it communicates something entirely different. In these high-level environments, silence is never neutral. It is actively read as a position.
Because of that unspoken rule.
Exactly. Because of that rule, the leadership reads your quiet observation as total, unequivocal agreement with whatever they just proposed. Later, when that proposal fails, you cannot claim you were just observing. Your fingerprints are completely on the weapon.
Oh, man. So you're damned if you speak and you're damned if you don't. If silence means you're aggressively agreeing to bad ideas and speaking up in a ritual meeting is a massive waste of your political capital, how does anyone survive this? How do you avoid just being a walk-on character in someone else's play?
The way out of the trap is understanding the crucial distinction between two fundamentally different types of silence. Not all silence is created equal.
Okay,
There is strategic silence, and there is silence by default.
let's break those apart.
Yeah.
Strategic silence is a deliberate, conscious, awake choice.
Yes.
You walk into the room, you look at the agenda, you notice who had coffee together,
Yes.
and you diagnose the situation. You realize, okay, this is a ritual consultation. The decision is made.
Right. You see the matrix.
Yeah. And you actively, internally decide, I am not going to spend my limited political capital fighting this specific fight. I will save it for a genuine consultation where I can actually move the needle.
Yeah.
You are quiet, but you are completely aware of why you are quiet. You maintain your agency.
Exactly. You are preserving your ammunition for a battle you can actually win. Contrast that with silence by default.
Which is not paying attention.
Basically, it's a complete failure to read the room. You sit through the meeting, you don't say much because you didn't prep, or you're daydreaming, or you just aren't paying attention to the structural dynamics. You walk out thinking, well, that went broadly fine.
Blissfully unaware.
Completely unaware that your passive, tuned-out silence has just been officially logged as enthusiastic support for a decision you might actually profoundly disagree with if you had, bothered to analyze it.
You essentially walked into co-signing a potentially disastrous idea.
Yes, you did.
And to prevent that sleepwalking, the text offers this incredibly practical rule of thumb. Let's call it the 10-minute rule. We can play this out right now. Imagine it's your 10 a.m. Tuesday staff meeting. You sit down with your coffee.
Okay, clock starts.
Minute 1, you check the phrasing on the agenda. Minute 4, you observe who is dominating the conversation and if their talking points magically align. By minute 10, you must diagnose the room. You have 10 minutes to answer the core question of whether this is a genuine or ritual consultation. That is your absolute deadline to decide what your posture will be.
Because if you wait past those first 10 minutes, the current of the meeting will simply pull you under. You'll lose the opportunity to make a strategic choice, and you will just default to passive compliance. You have to consciously choose your posture early.
So what does this all mean? If I'm listening to this and I'm plotting out my next move at work, how do you know when to actually spend that political capital? Because if you just sit there in strategic silence in every single meeting, carefully hoarding your political capital forever, you're just as useless to the company as if you spent it all arguing on day one.
This raises an important question, and it's a critical balancing act. It really gets to the heart of Nicotina's entire thesis. It is not about never fighting. It's about knowing the exact nature of the battlefield before you draw your sword.
Okay, I like that.
The article delivers this phenomenal takeaway quote that summarizes the entire dilemma perfectly. Nicotina writes, "In a room where everyone votes the same way, the central question you must ask yourself is whether you are voting or simply being counted."
Wow. Are you voting or are you simply being counted? That completely reframes the experience of sitting in a conference room.
Totally shifts the perspective.
Yeah, like if you've diagnosed it as a genuine consultation, you are voting. Your voice holds weight. The destination can change based on your input. But if you've diagnosed a ritual consultation, you aren't a voter. You are just a number. They are tallying up to make their predetermined decision look legitimate to the rest of the company.
It forces you to take agency over your own physical presence in the organization. Once you can read the room with that level of clarity, you stop being a victim of pointless meetings.
You take your power back.
Yes. You can strategically decide when to be a voter and when to just lean back, let yourself be counted, and preserve your energy for the things that actually matter.
This changes everything about how you look at your calendar. For everyone listening, I really want to challenge you to take this exact diagnostic checklist into your very next meeting. Seriously, try it tomorrow.
It's a fun experiment.
It is. Look at how the agenda is framed. Is it open exploration or closed implementation? Watch who speaks last, and notice if their conclusion magically aligns with the person who called the meeting. And pay incredibly close attention to who was chatting by the coffee machine before you all sat down. It will completely change how you view the gears turning in your workplace.
And as you start applying this checklist and mapping out those dynamics, I want to leave you with a final thought that builds on what we've unpacked today.
All right, what is it?
Let's say you do map out your workplace perfectly, and you realize, to your horror, that almost all the major needle-moving decisions are actually made in those corridors behind closed doors, and over lunch entirely before the formal boardroom vote ever takes place.
Which happens a lot.
It does. And if that is the reality of your organization's architecture, well, then the real question isn't how to bravely speak up in the meeting. The real question is, how do you get invited to lunch?